The cowboy thought she came only for supplies, but she asked him how to use her mouth. Dust rolled across the empty trading post as a lone rider stopped by his porch, her voice trembling like she carried more than thirst. She wasn't there just for flour or water. She needed to speak a truth she wasn't allowed to say out loud. And the moment she leaned closer, the air turned tight with danger, as if someone else was listening from the shadows. What was she so afraid to say? And why risk her life to whisper it to him? The sun was still low when the quiet knock hit the cowboy's supply room door. He was sorting rope and grain sacks, mindset on another lonely day, when he heard it, soft, quick, like someone testing whether he was alone. He wiped dust from his hands, stepped outside, and found a woman standing by the pump, holding an empty tin cup as if it weighed more than iron. Wind pushed her hair across her face. Her clothes were travel-worn, her boots streaked with dried mud. She didn't look like someone stopping for a simple errand. She looked like someone running out of time. "Water?" he asked, keeping his voice steady. "Yes, but that's not all," she whispered. Her hands shook as she worked the pump handle, filling the cup. She glanced over her shoulder toward the empty dirt road, though it wasn't truly empty. A single horse stood far off near the mesquite line, rider absent, saddle still warm. Someone had followed her. The cowboy noticed the way her breathing hitched, how she paused before lifting the cup to her lips. She wasn't here for supplies. She wasn't even here for him. She was here because she needed a place where she could speak without being punished for it. "You came early," he said. "Store's not open yet." "I know." She swallowed hard. "That's why I came." Care, threat. A gust of wind carried the sound of shifting gravel. Heavy boots, not hers, not his. Someone was out there, waiting for her to slip, to speak, to betray something she kept locked behind her teeth. She lowered her voice. I need to use my mouth right. I need to say something I shouldn't know, and I don't know how to say it without getting killed." The cowboy's jaw tightened. "Tell me plain." "I can't," she breathed. "Not out here." Another sound, sharper, metal tapping metal, like a rifle butt brushing a fence post. The cowboy stepped closer to her, not touching, but standing between her and the open field. "You're safe for the moment. Say what you can." But she didn't. She only looked at him with wide, tense eyes, as if begging him to understand a message she couldn't risk speaking. Then the church bell in the distance rang once, far too early to be normal. A warning. Something or someone was coming. The cowboy didn't move at first. He stood on the dry boards of the porch, listening. Wind brushed the dust sideways across the open yard, making a soft hiss against the wooden beams. The woman kept her head low, cup held in both hands, as if trying to make herself small. Behind her, the long shadow of the abandoned horse didn't shift. That meant whoever rode it was hiding somewhere close, keeping watch, waiting for her to slip. The cowboy had seen this kind of fear before, someone carrying words that could start trouble if said too loud. "Come inside," he murmured. "It's cooler there." "I shouldn't," she replied. "You already came this far." She hesitated, then stepped toward him. Her boots scraped the porch, every movement tight and controlled. The cowboy pushed the door open with his shoulder, letting her enter first. Inside, the small supply room smelled of rope, iron tools, and the faint sweetness of dried corn. She took one step in and froze again. "You're safe," he said quietly. "No one's safe today." Her voice wavered in a way he didn't like the sound of a string pulled too tight. He closed the door behind her, not locked, just shut, enough to muffle any noise from the empty yard, enough to make her breathe a little easier. "Tell me what you need," he said. "Use simple words." She swallowed hard, fingers tightening on the cup. "I need to speak," she whispered, "but not wrong." He studied her. "Someone told you what to say?" "No. Someone told me what not to say." She lifted her eyes just enough for him to see the fear hiding behind them. "I'm not allowed to speak the truth," she said. "Not out loud, not to anyone." That told him plenty. Folks with power didn't silence someone unless the truth had teeth. "Start from what you can say," he urged. She shook her head. "I don't know where to start." He pointed to the table. "Sit. Breathe first." She sat stiffly, hands shaking as she placed the cup down. The moment it touched the wood, another noise drifted through the window. Faint but sharp, metal scraping metal, like someone adjusting a rifle sight. Her shoulders tensed. "He followed me," she whispered. "Who?" "A man with a badge," she said. "But not a good one." The cowboy felt his jaw tighten. Plenty of men wore a badge without earning the right to one. "What does he want?" he asked. She pressed her lips together. "My voice," she said. "He wants me silent." He stepped closer, keeping his tone calm. "Why silence you?" Her eyes finally met his. "Because I heard something," she whispered. "Something I'm not supposed to know." "What kind of something?" "A deal," she said, voice cracking. "A deal in the canyon. A wrong one. I wasn't meant to hear it." She leaned forward, elbows on her knees. "And now, he wants me quiet." The cowboy let out a slow breath. No wonder she'd come at dawn. No wonder her horse was lathered and shaking when she arrived. "What was the deal?" he asked. "I can't say it right," she said. "If I say it wrong, you'll misunderstand. If I say it right, he'll kill us both." He crouched so they were eye level. "You can speak slow. Choose each word. I'll listen." She looked at him, trembling. "I don't know how," she whispered. "My words, they get twisted when I'm scared. I need help. I need to use my mouth right, to say the truth clean, to say it safe." He nodded. Now it was clear. She wasn't asking for anything improper. She was fighting for the right to speak, plain, brave, and alive. "Start with the first moment," he said gently. "What did you see?" She took a breath, then exhaled sharply. "I saw him," she said, "talking to the wagon man, late at night, near the canyon cliffs. They didn't see me." What were they doing? Before she could answer, something hit the porch outside. Not loud, not heavy, just a soft tap, but the kind made by a boot heel settling carefully on wood. The cowboy stood instantly, one hand hovering near his holster. He didn't draw. Not yet. The woman's hand flew to her mouth, eyes wide. "Is that him?" he asked quietly. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Another tap, a slow shift of weight. Someone outside the door, then a third sound, even softer. The faint metal click of a rifle lever being eased into place. The cowboy leaned toward the window, just enough to glimpse a shadow moving across the porch. Tall, still, waiting. He spoke without turning his head. "Don't move," he whispered. "What's he doing?" she breathed. "He's listening," the cowboy said, "trying to hear if you said something he doesn't want repeated." The woman's hands clutched the table. "What do we do?" she whispered. He didn't answer at first. He was watching that shadow, watching how it stayed perfectly still. Then, in a low voice, "We wait, and we stay silent." She swallowed hard. "For how long?" He narrowed his eyes. "Until I know whose shadow that is, and what he's ready to do for your silence." The cowboy stayed still. His breath held low in his chest. The shadow on the porch didn't move. It stretched long across the wooden planks, the shape of a man standing close enough to touch the door, but quiet enough to be mistaken for part of the wall. The woman's hands shook as she clung to the table edge. "Is he waiting to come inside?" she whispered. "Maybe," the cowboy answered softly. "Maybe he's listening first." A long, tense silence followed. Dust rattled against the outside boards. The pump creaked once in the wind. Inside, the air felt thick, as if the room itself feared making noise. Then a new sound broke through, the gentle clink of metal swinging against leather. A badge. The cowboy's jaw tightened. "That's him," she breathed. "I know that sound." The badge scraped again, tapping against the stranger's belt as he shifted his weight. It wasn't the sound of a helpful lawman. It was the slow, deliberate rhythm of someone who wanted to remind the world who had authority, and who didn't. The cowboy stepped closer to the woman. "You need to breathe slow," he said quietly. "I can't," she whispered. "You can. Right now. You must." She nodded, shaky but trying. Then came a soft knock. 3 taps. Calm and polite. Too calm. Too polite. "Ma'am," a voice outside drawled. "I know you're in there. Best you open this door. We need a friendly talk." Her eyes widened. "He never talks friendly," she said. "I figured," the cowboy murmured. The shadow shifted again. Another tap of the badge. A boot creaked. The cowboy could almost feel the man's ear pressed against the wood. "You left something important behind," the voice continued. "Words you shouldn't carry. Come outside and we'll settle it. Real quiet." The woman shook her head violently. "No. If I go out there, he'll make me disappear." The cowboy moved toward the back of the room, checking the rear window. No horses, no riders, just open land and heat waves. He returned to her side. "You're not going anywhere with him," he said firmly. Her breath caught. "Why help me?" "Because you didn't come here for supplies," he said. "You came here scared, and scared folks don't lie." Care, threat, another knock. Harder this time. "Open up," the voice said, losing its patience. "I ain't asking again." The cowboy's hand hovered near his revolver but didn't touch it. Drawing too soon would turn a tense moment into a gunfight neither of them might survive. He whispered, "You need to move away from the door." She slid off the chair, crouching low behind a stack of burlap grain sacks. The cowboy stepped in front of her, eyes fixed on the doorframe. Then a sudden shift, a micro-victory. Hoofbeats. Far off, but real. Coming from the south ridge, more than one horse, moving steady. The cowboy's shoulders eased a fraction. "Someone else is coming," he whispered. "Friends?" she asked. "Too early to say." The shadow on the porch stiffened at the sound of the distant riders. The badge clicked once more, like a nervous twitch. The man outside hissed under his breath, "You're making this harder than it needs to be." Then the cowboy heard him descend one step, another. The badge went silent. His boots crossed the porch with slow, measured thuds. "He's retreating," the woman whispered hopefully. "No," the cowboy said. "He's repositioning." Uncertainty returned. The footsteps stopped at the far corner of the porch, close to the front window but out of sight. A perfect place to watch. A perfect place to ambush. The cowboy leaned slightly toward the window's left edge, just enough to catch a glimpse. The man's hat brim peeked over the rail. The rifle barrel rested against his shoulder, angled downward, not aiming. Yet, he was waiting for a better moment. "Why won't he leave?" she whispered. "Because you know something worth killing for," the cowboy replied. The riders drew closer, 3 silhouettes approaching the ridge. Could be ranch hands, could be drifters, could be trouble. The cowboy didn't know yet, but the man on the porch reacted. He straightened, tightened his grip on the rifle, and turned his head toward the south ridge. "Ain't expectin' company," he muttered. His voice was different now, sharper, worried. The cowboy saw his chance. He leaned close to the woman. "When he looks away, you speak," he said. "Anything you can. Even one piece. Give me something to work with." She blinked fast. "Right now?" "Yes, now." She gathered herself, breathing hard. "I heard him," she whispered. "In the canyon. Talking about a wagon. A stolen one. Something hidden under tarps." "What kind of something?" She forced the words out. "Something he shouldn't have taken." The cowboy's eyes narrowed. "Taken from who?" But before she could answer, a gun cocked. The cowboy snapped his head toward the window. The man on the porch had turned back toward the house, rifle raised now, aimed straight at the window glass. The woman gasped and ducked lower. The cowboy grabbed her arm, pulling her further behind the sacks. "Stay down," he whispered urgently. Outside, the man's voice sliced through the hot air. "Time's up." A single boot step creaked, then another. He was heading straight for the door, and his finger was already on the trigger. The cowboy's pulse steadied into something cold and controlled. Across the room, the shadow of the rifle barrel stretched long over the window frame. A thin black line cutting through the dusty light. One squeeze, and the glass would explode inward. The woman crouched so low, her forehead nearly touched her knees. "He's going to shoot," she whispered. "Not yet," the cowboy murmured. "He wants you alive a moment longer." "Why?" "Because he needs to know what you told me." A heavy step thudded against the porch, then another. The cowboy counted them without looking. Slow, deliberate, each one testing whether the floorboards creaked. Outside, the man's voice came low and steady. "Ma'am, you're making a foolish choice. I can still help you. But you open that door right now." The cowboy shook his head. "No door opens today." Another step. Then the man tapped the barrel of his rifle softly against the wood. A warning. "I won't ask again," he said. The cowboy raised a hand for silence. He needed to think, not like a gunslinger, but like a chess player. The riders were close enough now that dust clouds drifted behind them. Whoever they were, they would arrive in less than a minute. That meant anyone who fired a gun first would look guilty. He leaned toward the woman. "Tell me more about the wagon." She swallowed. "I only saw the edge of something. Something wrapped. What shape?" "Square. Heavy. Two men could barely lift it. Crate or chest?" "Could be both." "What color tarp?" "Dark. Maybe green." "Army freight," he muttered. She shook her head fiercely. "No insignia. Nothing official." "Then stolen," he said. Her eyes darted toward the window. "That's why he's here. If I speak the wrong words, I ruin everything." "Or you save everything," the cowboy said. "Care. Threat. Micro-victory." Outside, the riders reached the fence line. 3 silhouettes. One tall, one small, one leading a pack mule. They slowed as they spotted the stranger on the porch. The man with the badge stiffened, adjusting his rifle but not lowering it. The cowboy whispered, "These might be neighbors. Or trouble. We'll know soon." The riders reined in. Dust floated around them like fog. "Morning," one called out. The man on the porch didn't answer. He kept his rifle raised toward the house as if the riders didn't exist. The small rider nudged his horse forward. "What's going on there?" Finally, the man with the badge lifted his head. "Official business. Move along." "What kind of business?" the tall rider asked. "None of yours." The cowboy saw a micro-opening. Someone else was watching him now. Someone the badge man didn't control. He motioned silently to the woman. "When I say, move to the back door." She froze. "But he'll hear. I'll give him something louder to hear." Her breath hitched. "Like what?" "A reason to look somewhere else." Outside, voices rose. "Put the rifle down," one rider said. The badge man snapped back. "Back off. Last warning." There it was. A spark for a fire. The cowboy eased toward the far corner of the room, careful not to let the floorboards squeak. The woman watched him with wide, frightened eyes. "What are you doing?" she whispered. "Changing the timing." He grabbed a tin lantern off the shelf and held it near the window, just close enough to catch the badge man's eye, just far enough to make him think the cowboy was preparing to throw it. The badge man reacted instantly. "Don't you move!" he barked, lifting the rifle. The riders flinched. "What's wrong with you?" one shouted. The badge man didn't answer. He had tunnel vision, aimed on the shadow behind the window. Now, the cowboy signaled sharply at the woman. "Back door, go!" She scrambled across the floor, slipping behind crates and sacks, staying low. Her breath came in quick bursts, but she didn't speak. She didn't dare. Outside, the rifle clacked as the badge man pulled the hammer back. "You've got one chance," he shouted. "Bring her out." The tall rider growled. "Bring who out? You need to calm—" "Quiet!" the badge man bellowed. His voice cracked, not with authority, but with fear. That fear meant one thing. The woman had heard something truly dangerous. She reached the back door, hand hovering over the latch. The cowboy breathed, "Wait." He needed the badge man to think she was still inside. If she bolted too soon, she'd be a running target. The badge man stepped closer to the window, boots booming on the porch. 3 steps, 2, 1. He pressed the barrel against the glass. The cowboy tightened his grip on the lantern. The woman held her breath. The riders muttered, confused and alarmed, and then a deep rumble shook the earth. Not thunder, not a wagon, hooves, fast, hard, uncontrolled. A 4th rider burst over the hill, horse lathered, eyes wide with panic. He screamed one sentence that froze the entire valley. "The wagon's gone, and you're all in danger." The badge man spun toward the sound. The cowboy whispered one word to the woman. "Run." The woman shoved the back door open and stumbled into the harsh sun. Heat slapped her face, and dust lifted around her boots as she ran behind the barn, breath tight and ragged. The cowboy followed close, lantern still in hand, eyes cutting from her to the yard, reading shadows the way some men read tracks. Behind them, inside the house, glass finally shattered. Boom! The badge man fired straight through the window. The woman gasped and ducked. "Keep going," the cowboy barked. "I heard the shot." He missed. "Move." Care. Threat. They sprinted behind the stack of firewood near the corral. The boards shielded them from the porch, but the cowboy knew they had seconds before the badgeman charged through the front. A rider's voice cracked over the wind. "Drop the gun!" "No one moves!" the badgeman yelled back. Horses snorted. Hooves shuffled. Dust swirled. The newcomer, the one who shouted about the wagon, was still breathless, waving his arms wildly. "I said it's gone. The whole load," the tall rider demanded. "What load?" But the badgeman didn't answer. He was too busy searching for the woman. Inside the cowboy's barn, a mule kicked its stall, reacting to the gunshot. The cowboy raised a hand to calm the animal. The woman pressed herself against the wood stack. "He's coming," she whispered. "Yes," the cowboy said. "But not alone." She swallowed, trembling. "What does he want with the wagon?" "Same thing he wants with you," the cowboy said. "Silence." The woman blinked hard, voice cracking. "He killed for it once." "I figured," he replied. From the front yard, the badgeman stomped across the porch, boots thudding with angry, measured weight. His rifle scraped the railing as he passed it. Then a new voice cut through the heat. "You better tell us what's going on," one rider warned. The badgeman snapped. "Stay back." "We didn't come here to fight," the tall rider said. "You'll get one anyway," the badgeman growled. The cowboy exhaled sharply. "He's losing control." "Is that bad?" she whispered. "No, that's useful." Micro-victory. The cowboy peeked around the pile of firewood, gauging the distance between their hiding place and the old water trough near the shed. It was closer to the corral, and had a gate leading out to the north ridge. If they moved fast, they might slip past the fence line. But the woman noticed something else. "The fourth rider," she whispered. "The one who warned us. He looks scared." "Scared men talk," the cowboy said. "And talkers get killed," she replied. He nodded once. "Exactly." The fourth rider wiped sweat from his brow and shouted again. "The wagon didn't fall." "It was taken," the tall rider frowned. "By who?" "I didn't see," the man cried, "but the cliff path had fresh tracks. 3 men, maybe 4, heavy load." The badgeman cursed under his breath. The cowboy stiffened, mind racing. 3 men can take a wagon," he muttered, "but 4. 4 means a crew." "A crew," she whispered. "Organized men," he said. "Men with a plan." "And the badgeman?" she asked. "He's not chasing thieves," the cowboy said. "He's protecting them." Her breath caught. "Then why come after me?" "Because you saw the first part of that plan." Threat. New uncertainty. The cowboy reached for her arm. "We're moving," he said. "Stay low." She nodded. They slipped from the firewood stack to the shadowed side of the barn, backs pressed to rough boards. The cowboy checked the yard. The badgeman was now arguing with the riders, trying to keep them away from the house. Anything to hide the broken window and the reason for it. "Where's the girl?" one rider demanded. "Gone," the badgeman snapped. "And that's good for her." "Doesn't sound like it," the tall rider said. The badgeman swung the rifle toward him. "Back off," the cowboy whispered to the woman. "This is our chance. Move." They crossed the barn corner and crouched beside the water trough. The north gate fence was only 20 yards off, but the badgeman spun suddenly, face sharp with suspicion. He looked around the yard like a wolf scenting prey. "Someone's moving," he snarled. The cowboy froze. Then the badgeman stepped off the porch, slowly, deliberately, rifle pointed toward the barn. The woman whispered, "He knows." "No," the cowboy replied. "He guesses." "What's the difference?" "He only needs one guess." The badgeman advanced across the yard, each boot crushing gravel. One rider moved his horse to block him. "Hold on now." "Move," the badgeman barked. "No," the rider said. The badgeman raised the rifle. "I'm done asking." Silence. Tense. Cracking. The cowboy murmured, "When they start fighting him, we slip out. But what if they shoot?" "We move faster." Before she could reply, the fourth rider, the frightened one, shouted again, louder than before. "The wagon wasn't empty. That's why they took it." The badgeman spun toward him. "What was inside?" one rider asked. The fourth rider gasped for breath, pointing at the cowboy's barn. It wasn't supplies, it was evidence. The cowboy stared. Evidence. The woman's face went pale. "What kind of evidence?" she whispered. The fourth rider opened his mouth, but a gunshot thundered through the yard. The badgeman fired first. The cowboy grabbed the woman and pulled her flat to the dirt as the riders scattered and horses screamed. But the fourth rider didn't scream, he fell. Hard. Dust rose around him. The woman clutched the cowboy's arm, shaking. "What now?" she gasped. The cowboy looked toward the fence line, toward the open path north, and toward the badgeman who was already turning their way, rifle smoking in his hands. "We run," the cowboy said. "But where?" He held her gaze. "Anywhere he isn't." The woman stumbled as the cowboy pulled her toward the north gate, boots slipping in the loose dirt. Behind them, the yard exploded with shouts and horse cries. The fourth rider lay motionless, dust settling over his coat like snow. The badgeman paced in a slow arc, rifle tracking shadows. The cowboy whispered, "Stay right behind me." "I can't run fast," she gasped. "You run enough." They reached the trough, crouching low. The badgeman scanned the yard, eyes sharp and hungry. One rider yelled, "Put that gun down." "Not till I find her," the badgeman snarled. The woman clutched the trough edge. "He's killing them, one by one." "Not if they see the truth," the cowboy said. "Do they?" "Not yet. Care, threat." A shadow moved across the barn wall, heavy, slow. The badgeman's boots crunched closer. Dust drifted around his heels. The cowboy held his breath, counting each step like counting heartbeats. The woman whispered, "What did the rider mean about evidence?" "Something in that wagon," he said. "But what? I don't know yet." She swallowed hard, trembling. "He killed the only man who knew." "Not the only," the cowboy said. "You know a piece." She squeezed her eyes shut. "I didn't mean to hear it. I didn't want to." "Doesn't matter. You did." Micro-victory. Her courage surged just enough. She opened her eyes. "I heard them say the crate had papers." "Papers?" "Proof of something. Something hidden." The cowboy's jaw tightened. "Hidden from who?" "I don't know. But he said a judge would believe it." "That's bad," the cowboy muttered. "What kind of judge?" "The kind with power. Threat, new uncertainty." The badgeman stopped walking. Silence fell like a hammer. Then he spoke in a low, icy voice. "Ma'am, I know you're here somewhere, but listen close. You got nothing to gain by running, only pain." The woman shook uncontrollably. The cowboy whispered, "Don't look up. Don't breathe loud." She nodded, trying, but fear made her chest tighten. The badgeman stepped closer. Clink. Badge tapping his belt. Clack. Rifle shifting. The cowboy ducked lower behind the trough. "He's too close," he murmured. "What do we do?" she asked. "We wait for his mistake." "What mistake?" "All men make one," he said. Just then, a rider shouted from near the fence, "You shot him for nothing." The badgeman snarled. "He knew too much." The tall rider shouted back, "About what?" "You don't want to know," the badgeman snapped. But the cowboy did want to know. He peeked just enough around the trough. The badgeman stood only a few yards away, breathing hard, eyes scanning every shadow. His rifle was trembling, not from fear but from fury. The cowboy whispered, "He's cracking." "That's good," she asked. "Yes. Angry men forget." "Forget what?" "To watch their backs." A sudden gust blew dust over the yard. It swirled up the porch steps, around the barn, rolling like dry smoke. The badgeman squinted, raising an arm to shield his eyes. The cowboy grabbed the woman's wrist. "Now," he whispered. They bolted across the open space toward the north fence, keeping low, staying within the drifting cloud of dust. The badgeman coughed, eyes watering. "What was that?" he barked. No one answered. The dust hid everything for a precious few seconds. They reached the fence. The cowboy lifted the latch. "Inside," he said. The woman slipped through the opening, her breath tight with panic. The cowboy followed, pulling the gate quietly shut behind them. Micro-victory. For a moment, they were out of sight. But the dust settled too quickly. The badgeman saw movement, just a flicker. "There," he roared. A gunshot tore through the air. Crack. The woman flinched, stumbling into the cowboy's arms. "Are you hit?" he asked. "No, no, I'm okay." Another shot split the earth near their feet. "Stay low." They dove behind a fallen log just beyond the fence line. The ground was dry, cracked, hot against their palms. The badgeman shouted at the riders, "Get out of my way!" "No!" one rider yelled. But the badgeman fired again, warning shots this time, sending the riders' horses rearing. The cowboy whispered, "He's coming after us alone." "That's worse," she breathed. "Yes." The badgeman's boots pounded across the yard, heavier than before. The cowboy checked the horizon. The canyon lay miles west. The ridge dropped into brush east. North held only rock and heat. Nowhere safe. The woman grabbed his sleeve. "What do we do?" His eyes scanned the land, searching for anything. Cover, shelter, hope. Then he spotted it. A thin line of smoke rising from the far north ridge, too steady to be wildfire, too pale to be chimney smoke. Someone out there, someone watching, someone cooking or waiting. "Do you see it?" the woman whispered. "Yes," the cowboy said, "a camp. Friendly. No idea. But safer than here." "For the moment," he said. He helped her stand. Another gunshot cracked behind them. "We run to that ridge," he said. "But what if they're worse?" He looked at her, steady, calm, certain. "They can't be worse than the man behind us." Her breath shook. "Then lead the way." They sprinted across the hard ground, legs burning, dust kicking behind them. The badgeman vaulted the fence like a man possessed, rifle raised, face twisted. He shouted one sentence that froze her in mid-step. "You think running changes anything? I know what you heard." The woman staggered. "What did he mean?" she gasped. The cowboy grabbed her hand, pulling her onward. "He knows your secret," he said. "But he doesn't know mine." She looked at him in shock. "You have one too." The cowboy nodded once. "And if he finds out," he said, "we both die." The cowboy pulled her forward through the dry scrub, each step sending thorns snapping under their boots. The wind picked up, carrying with it the bitter smell of gunpowder and hot dust. Behind them, the badgeman let out a sharp whistle, high, commanding, the kind used to signal a horse or a partner. The woman stumbled. "He's calling someone." "Maybe," the cowboy said. "Maybe not." A gunshot cracked through the heat. Crack. The bullet kicked dirt inches from the woman's foot. She cried out, "He's too close." "He won't hit you," the cowboy said. "Not yet." "How do you know?" "Because he needs your silence first." Threat. They dove behind a low stretch of dry brush. The ground burned under their palms. The cowboy peeked over the top, eyes narrowing. The badgeman was moving fast, rifle raised, boots pounding like they owned the land. The woman gasped, "I can't run anymore." "Yes, you can," the cowboy said. She shook her head. I can't breathe." The cowboy placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "Breathe slow," he said, "like this." He inhaled once, deep, calm, showing her. She copied him, shaky at first, then steadier, care. He pointed toward the distant ridge. The thin column of smoke was still rising, curling lazily into the sky. "That camp," he said, "is our only cover. What if they're dangerous? We deal with that later. What if it's his men? Then we deal with that now." Micro-victory. She steadied herself. But the badgeman was close enough now that they could hear the grind of his teeth. "Girl," he yelled, "you say one wrong word, and you're done." She flinched. "He knows I heard something." "Not what you heard," the cowboy said. "That's the difference." "What do you mean?" "Truth isn't dangerous," he said. "Details are. New uncertainty." The cowboy scanned the open stretch again. The land between them and the smoke was bare. No cover except scattered mesquite and old wagon ruts baked into the dirt. "Ready?" he asked. "No," she said. He nodded. "Good. Only fools feel ready." They cut left, following a shallow wash that would hide their legs from sight, just enough to trick the eye. The badgeman fired again, this time hitting a rock near the wash. Stone splintered. "Stop running!" he roared. The cowboy called back, "Stop chasing!" The badgeman fired again. The woman whispered, "Why won't he stop?" "Because he's scared." "Of what?" "People who know the truth." She stumbled over a root. The cowboy caught her arm before she fell. "You all right?" "Yes," she said, "but I can't think straight." "That's how he wants you," the cowboy said. Threat. The wash deepened enough for them to crouch. The woman slid into the shade with a gasp of relief. "Why does he think you have a secret?" she whispered. The cowboy watched the badgeman reload at a distance. "Because I do." "What kind?" "The kind that makes men like him nervous." "That's not an answer." "It wasn't a question," he said. She blinked, confused, but there wasn't time. The badgeman's boots echoed across the hardpan. He was climbing down into the wash, following their tracks perfectly. The cowboy's jaw tightened. "He's tracking us too well," he muttered. "What does that mean?" "He wasn't just after you," the cowboy said. "He was already close." "Close to what?" "To me," the cowboy said. She stared, eyes wide. "You? Why?" The cowboy didn't answer. He grabbed her hand and pointed toward a narrow break in the rocks ahead. "There," he whispered. "Out of the wash." "But he'll see us." "Yes," he said, "but first he needs to look down. We move up." Micro-victory through misdirection. They climbed the rock break, staying low, gripping roots and stones. The wash noise masked their scrambling. When they reached the top ledge, they crawled behind a dead juniper. Below them, the badgeman marched right into the empty wash. The cowboy whispered, "He lost us." "That's good," she asked. "For the moment." Threat. New uncertainty. The badgeman raised his rifle and shouted into the wash, "You can't hide forever. She can't protect you." The woman frowned. "Protect you," she whispered. "Why would I protect you?" The cowboy looked at the distant ridge instead of answering. The thin smoke rose higher now. The campfire wasn't dying. It was being fed. Someone was tending it. The cowboy felt tension coil in his chest. "That camp," he said, "knew we were coming." "Because of the smoke?" she asked. "No," he said, "because it never stopped." "I don't understand." "It's a signal," the cowboy said quietly. "Someone there wants to be seen. For us, or for him," he muttered. The woman pressed a hand to her mouth. "What if it's a trap?" "It might be," the cowboy said. "Should we avoid it?" "We can't," he said. "It's the only cover." Below them, the badgeman climbed out of the wash and scanned the ledges. He lifted his gun toward the ridge, toward the smoke, toward the camp. The cowboy's eyes widened. "He's aiming at them." "At who?" "At whoever sent that smoke." The badgeman whispered something they couldn't hear. Then he steadied his rifle. The cowboy's voice dropped to a bare whisper. "He's not just after you or me." "What then?" she breathed. "He's after whoever holds the rest of your secret." The badgeman fired. Crack! The woman gasped, grabbing the cowboy's sleeve. What did he hit? Smoke drifted from the rifle barrel. The cowboy looked at the ridge, eyes narrowing as he saw a shape fall beside the distant fire. "A person," he said. "Who?" she whispered. He stood, face hardening like stone. "Whoever knew what was inside that wagon." The cowboy didn't move at first. He stared toward the ridge, watching the figure collapse beside the fire. The thin line of smoke wavered, bending in the wind like it was gasping. The woman grabbed his sleeve, voice shaking. "Did he kill them?" "Yes," the cowboy said quietly. "Why, they weren't even chasing us." "They knew something," he replied. "Something connected." The badgeman lowered his smoking rifle and scanned the ridge, shoulders tense. He wasn't checking for danger. He was checking for results, making sure the shot did what he intended. The woman whispered, "We need to help that person." "We will. But we're too far." "We won't be," he said. "Not if we move fast." "Care." The cowboy hopped down the ledge first, boots landing silently in the dirt. He held out a hand to the woman. She took it, descending slowly, feet slipping on loose gravel. Behind them, the badgeman reloaded. "We need to hurry," the cowboy said. "But he'll see us. He's watching the ridge, not us." "That could change," she warned. "It always does," he said. Threat. They sprinted across the open stretch, keeping low behind scattered mesquite. The sun beat down, making the ground shimmer with heat. Each step felt louder than the last. The woman's breath came in tight bursts. "I can't outrun a rifle," she whispered. "You don't need to," the cowboy said. "Just outrun his choices." What choices? Who to shoot next? As they neared the ridge, the cowboy risked a glance back. The badgeman stood frozen, staring at the smoke like it held answers. Then, slowly, he lifted his rifle again, this time scanning the ridge for movement. "He's checking if they're dead," the cowboy muttered. "Are they?" He didn't answer. When they reached the base of the ridge, they crouched behind a boulder. The smoke curled above them. The badgeman hadn't moved yet. "Climb fast," the cowboy said. "I'm not good at climbing. You'll be fine." He guided her up the rock face, pushing her boot into sturdy cracks, steadying her arm when she slipped. Dust crumbled beneath their weight. The ridge wasn't tall, but it was steep enough to expose them. Halfway up, the woman froze. "I hear him moving." The cowboy listened. Boots. Heavy. Steady. Coming closer. "He's heading this way," she whispered. "Keep climbing." "I can't." "He'll shoot." "He'll miss," the cowboy said. "You don't know that." "I do." "How?" "Because he's angry," the cowboy replied. "Angry men aim bad." She sucked in a shaky breath and climbed again. Micro-victory. They reached the top and crawled toward the dying fire. Ash drifted across the ground. Near the fire pit lay a figure, face down, unmoving. The woman gasped. "Is it?" "I'll check." The cowboy flipped the figure gently. It was a middle-aged man, clothes rough and simple. Dust coated his chest. A bloodstain spread from his left shoulder. "He's alive," the cowboy said. She let out a weak breath. "Are you sure?" "He's breathing." "Why kill an innocent man?" she whispered. "He wasn't innocent," the cowboy said. "Not to them." She blinked. What did he know? The cowboy checked the man's pockets, then his coat lining. Nothing but dry crumbs and a broken pocket knife. "He saw something," the cowboy said. "Something about the wagon." "He's like me," she whispered. "Maybe worse," the cowboy said. "Maybe he heard all of it." New uncertainty. The wounded man stirred, groaning. The woman knelt beside him. "You're hurt." "No loud talking," the cowboy warned. "He might wake confused." She nodded and spoke softly. "Sir, can you hear me?" His eyes fluttered open. He stared at her, dazed. "Water," he croaked. The cowboy handed him a small canteen. The man sipped, then choked, coughing hard. When he steadied, he grabbed the cowboy's sleeve with surprising strength. "They're coming," he rasped. "We know." "No, not him," the man whispered. "Others." The cowboy stiffened. "How many?" "3. Maybe 4. "Where?" The wounded man's eyes widened with panic. "Behind. The far ridge," he whispered. "They took the wagon." "They took the crate." "What's inside the crate?" the cowboy asked. The man swallowed painfully. "Signatures," he said. The woman frowned. "Signatures?" "Names," the man gasped. "People who paid. People involved." "Involved in what?" the cowboy pressed. But the man's strength slipped, eyes rolling back. He whispered one last word. "Land." The woman's voice broke. "Land. Whose land?" The cowboy stood, mind racing. The badgeman fired again. Crack! The bullet smashed into the rock inches from the cowboy's boot. The woman screamed, "He found us!" "No," the cowboy said. "He followed the smoke." Below them, the badgeman aimed up the ridge, face twisted with fury. "You two won't leave this ridge alive!" he shouted. The cowboy pulled the woman behind the fire pit. The badgeman shouted again, "Because both of you know what that crate proves." The woman trembled. "What does it prove?" The cowboy looked at her, quiet, hard, knowing that the land they want to seize isn't theirs. Her eyes widened. "Whose is it then?" The cowboy drew in a slow breath. "Yours," he said, "and they know it." A gunshot exploded through the ridge. The bullet slammed into the rock behind them, spraying shards into the air. The woman ducked, covering her head with both hands. The cowboy grabbed her arm and pulled her deeper behind the fire pit's stone wall. "He's too close," she cried. "He's desperate," the cowboy said. "That's worse." Below, the badgeman was climbing, boots scraping the shale. His rifle dangled on its sling as he pulled himself upward, muttering curses under his breath. The woman gasped. "He said the land is mine." "Maybe," the cowboy said. "Maybe not." "What does that mean?" It means he wouldn't chase you this hard unless you mattered. Threat. The wounded man behind them groaned, shifting. The woman turned to him. "Stay still," she whispered. "You're losing blood." He managed to open his eyes. "You need to leave. Now." "Why?" the cowboy asked. The wounded man grabbed his sleeve weakly. "They won't stop. They need that land. Need it. Bad." "What land?" the woman asked. "Your family's claim," the man rasped. "Old claim, old rights." Her breathing hitched. "I don't have family." "You had," the man whispered, "before the judge erased it." The cowboy stiffened. "A land claim erased by a judge?" "Yes," the man said. "Buried in papers. Papers stolen by them." Care. New threat. Below, the badge man reached the halfway point of the ridge. He steadied himself, lifted his rifle, and aimed toward the fire pit. The cowboy shoved the woman flat to the ground. "Stay down!" he barked. She hit the dirt just as another shot cracked past her shoulder, the bullet tearing through the top of the fire pit stones. The cowboy hissed, "He's firing blind, but he won't stay blind." "What do we do?" she whispered. "Think," the cowboy muttered. "We need a way down." "Down where? He's blocking the lower path." "We don't go down," the cowboy said. "We go sideways." He pointed toward a narrow ledge running along the ridge's shadow side. "That path leads around him." She blinked. "But it's barely wide enough." "It's wide enough for fear," he said. "Threat. Micro-victory." The cowboy helped the wounded man sit up. The man winced, clutching his shoulder. "I can't walk," the man gasped. "You won't," the cowboy said. "You crawl." The man swallowed hard. "You don't have to help me." "I do," the cowboy said. "Because helping you helps her." The woman touched her chest. "But why me?" "Because you're the key," the cowboy said softly. "You're the missing piece." She trembled. "I don't want to be a key." "No one ever does," the cowboy said. Below them, the badge man shouted up the ridge. "Girl, that land ain't yours, it ain't anyone's. It belongs to the men who can use it." The cowboy's eyes hardened. "He's slipping," he muttered. "Talking too much?" "He's telling the truth," the wounded man croaked. "They want the land because of what's under it," the woman whispered. "What's under it?" The wounded man coughed, trembling. "Water." The cowboy froze. "Water," he repeated. The man nodded. "Spring water. Deep. Cold. Enough. To save a whole town." The cowboy cursed under his breath. "That's why the crate had signatures," he said. "People paying for the land behind closed doors." The woman grabbed his sleeve. "They erased my family for water." "Yes," the cowboy said, "and they'll kill to keep it quiet." Before she could answer, shale crunched below them. The badge man was close, too close. He shouted, "That spring belongs to us, those papers prove it." "You just admitted it," the cowboy murmured. "He doesn't care," the woman whispered. "He thinks no one else will hear." "Oh, they'll hear," the cowboy said. "If we make it out." New uncertainty. The cowboy motioned sharply. "Move, now, side path." She crawled to the ledge, heart hammering. The drop beneath it was long enough to break bones, but not long enough to kill quickly. The wind pushed dust off the edge in swirling curls. "I can't do this," she whispered. "You have to," the cowboy said. The wounded man groaned. "Go, I'll slow you down." The cowboy shook his head. "No one gets left." He slung the man's good arm over his shoulder. "Hold tight." The woman crawled first along the narrow ledge, hands gripping the rock. The cowboy followed with the wounded man half-dragged beside him. Below, the badge man spotted their movement. "There!" he yelled. "I see you!" He raised his rifle. The cowboy shouted, "Move!" The woman scrambled faster, boots slipping. The badge man steadied his aim. A shot exploded. But it didn't come from the badge man, it came from behind the far ridge. Crack! The badge man jerked sideways, losing his footing. Gravel tumbled. His hat flew off. But he didn't fall. He dove behind a rock, furious. The woman gasped. "Someone else is shooting!" The cowboy narrowed his eyes. "They're here," he said. "The men who took the wagon." The woman trembled. "How many?" "Enough," the cowboy said. The wounded man whispered, "They're coming, Belle, for the crate, for the papers." "And for us?" she whispered. The cowboy clenched his jaw. "For anyone still breathing." The second gunshot echoed across the ridge, bouncing off the stone walls like thunder. The woman froze on the ledge, palms gripping the rock so hard her knuckles bleached white. "They're shooting at him," she whispered. "No," the cowboy said. "They're shooting at anyone up here." "Us too." "Yes." Threat. Below them, the badgeman cursed loudly, sliding deeper behind a sharp outcrop. Dust fell from the ridge as he tried to hide. "Come on," the cowboy urged. "Keep moving." "I'm trying," she gasped. The wounded man groaned, half dragged along the ledge. His boots scraped rock. His breath rattled. "They'll see us," he whispered. "Then don't look down," the cowboy said. He kept one hand steady on the man's back, keeping him upright. The ledge narrowed to little more than a boot width. The canyon dropped below, a deep bowl of cracked earth and wiry brush. A third gunshot slammed into the ridge above them. Crack. Shards of rock stung the cowboy's arm. "They're getting closer," the woman cried. "Move faster," the cowboy said. "I can't." "You can. I'm slipping." "Lean into the wall," he said. "Trust it." She swallowed, pressed her chest to the stone, and continued inch by inch. Care. Behind them, the wounded man whispered, "I can't keep this pace." "You will," the cowboy said. "No. Leave me. I slow you." "We don't leave anyone," the cowboy said firmly. The man's eyes filled with tears, part pain, part fear. The cowboy grabbed his elbow and pushed him forward. Another echo rolled across the canyon, hoofbeats, faint but growing. The woman froze again. "Horses," she whispered. The cowboy listened. More than one. More than two. "They're closened," he said. "Who?" "The wagon thieves," he replied. Her breath hitched. "They're coming up behind us." "They're splitting," the cowboy muttered. "Half coming from the ridge, half from below." "How do you know?" "Because that's what I would do." New uncertainty. They reached a bend in the ledge where it widened slightly. The woman collapsed to her knees, chest heaving. I can't. "You rest for 10 seconds, the cowboy said. "Then we move." She stared at him, shaking. 10 seconds won't help. "It's all we have." Threat. Behind them, the badgeman peeked from his cover and fired blindly toward the far ridge. The returning shot nearly hit him. He ducked back down, screaming, "Stop shooting at me! Shoot them!" The cowboy whispered, "He's panicking." "Is that good?" she asked. "No," he said. "Panic makes men unpredictable." The wounded man coughed violently, clutching his shoulder. The cowboy steadied him. "We need shelter," the cowboy said. "Where?" she asked. He pointed to a dark crack in the ridge wall. "There, a hollow." "It's tiny." "Big enough," he said. "Big enough for what?" "To hide," the cowboy replied. "For a moment." Care. Micro-victory. They crawled into the hollow, really no more than a shallow cave in the stone. Cool air brushed their faces. The light dimmed enough to hide them from the ridge above. The cowboy helped the wounded man lie down gently. The woman hugged her knees, shaking. "How many men are coming?" she whispered. 3 from above," the cowboy said. "Maybe 2 from below." "And the badgeman?" "He'll climb again," the cowboy said. "Why, he knows he's outnumbered." "He also knows what losing means," the cowboy replied. "If the wrong men get the papers, he hangs with them." Her eyes widened. "So he'd rather kill us than surrender?" "Yes." A long silence followed. The cowboy peeked out from the hollow. On the far ridge, 3 riders approached the campfire cautiously, rifles ready. Dust spiraled around their horses' legs. The fire crackled weakly beside the fallen man. Below the ridge, the badgeman began climbing again, sweat dripping from his face. The woman whispered, "Why is he so determined?" "Because you're the last loose end," the cowboy said. "I'm nobody." "No," he said, "you're the land claim." She trembled. "But I don't even know that family. I don't remember any of it." "You weren't supposed to," the cowboy said. "They erased it." "Why?" "Because if you knew," the cowboy said, "you'd have a legal right to the spring." She swallowed hard. "And that water is worth killing for." "Yes." Threat. New uncertainty. The ledge outside rumbled, a rider approaching from below. The cowboy pulled back into the hollow. "Don't make a sound," he warned. Hoofbeats slowed. A man dismounted, boots crunching. His shadow fell across the ridge wall, wide-brimmed hat, long coat, rifle slung low. The woman held her breath. The man spoke softly to himself. "Tracks lead up here. Someone's close." Another voice answered from above. "Keep looking. They're hiding. The boss wants them alive." Alive. The cowboy stiffened. Alive meant interrogation. Alive meant torture. Alive meant no escape. The woman whispered, "What do we do?" The cowboy studied her, eyes sharp, calculating. "I need to know something," he murmured. "What?" "Exactly what you heard that night." She froze. "I told you already." "No," he said. "Not everything. I swear." The cowboy leaned close. "What exact words did they say?" Her eyes filled with terror, not of the riders, but of remembering. I can't." "You must," the cowboy said. "I can't," she whispered again, "because if I repeat them, it means they're true." A stone rolled outside the hollow. A boot stepped inches from the entrance. The cowboy whispered urgently, "Tell me, now." The woman covered her mouth, shaking. "I heard them say the spring wasn't an accident." The cowboy narrowed his eyes. "What else?" The woman trembled. "They said the land won't stay empty long." The cowboy stiffened. "What does that mean?" Before she could answer, a rifle barrel slid into the hollow's entrance. The rifle barrel gleamed in the dim, hollow light, the metal tip steady and cold. Dust motes drifted around it like drifting ash. The woman froze, breath locked in her throat. The cowboy's hand moved instinctively toward his holster, but he stopped halfway. Too close, too narrow. One wrong move, and the bullet hits all three. The rider outside spoke in a low voice. "Step forward." "Slow," the cowboy whispered to the woman, barely a breath. "Don't move." The rider jabbed the barrel deeper. "I said forward." The cowboy slowly raised his hands. "Care. I'll step out," he said calmly. "No tricks." The woman grabbed his sleeve. "No." "You'll stay hidden," he murmured. The rider barked. "Out. Now." The cowboy crawled forward, each movement measured. When he emerged from the hollow, he raised both hands high. Sunlight hit his face, but he kept his eyes down, submissive but calculating. The rider stepped back a pace, studying him. "Where's the girl?" "No girl with me," the cowboy said. The rider scoffed. "Liar." The cowboy shrugged. "Search the hollow." The rider approached the opening. As he leaned down to check, the cowboy moved fast, kicking the man's boot heel. The rider stumbled forward, slamming shoulder first into the rock wall. The rifle clattered. Micro-victory. The cowboy dove for it, but the rider recovered quicker than expected, swinging a heavy fist into the cowboy's ribs. The blow forced the cowboy to grunt and fall back. The woman crawled toward the opening, panic in her voice. "Stop!" The rider lunged for her. She screamed. The cowboy surged up, tackling the rider off the narrow ledge. Both men tumbled, sliding down the slope in a shower of dust and gravel. The cowboy's boots dug into earth, breaking. The rider rolled farther, hitting a rock with a heavy thud. He didn't get up. The woman dragged herself out of the hollow and peered over the edge. "Is he—" "Stunned," the cowboy said, breathless and sore. "Not dead." "What now?" she asked. "We move, before he wakes." Threat. Above them on the ridge, voices rose, 3 riders arguing. "See anything?" "No sign." "Keep searching." The cowboy listened carefully, scanning their positions. "They're spreading out," he said, "trying to box us in." The wounded man struggled to sit up. "They know the papers matter." "Yes," the cowboy said, "but they don't know where they went." The woman whispered, "Where did they go?" The cowboy didn't answer. Instead, he motioned toward a narrow path curling down the far side of the ridge. "That trail leads to the basin," he said. "Is it safe?" she asked. "No." "Then why go there?" "Because the men behind us think we'll run south." "And we won't." "No," he said. "We run north." Micro-victory. New uncertainty. The wounded man tried to stand, faltering. The cowboy caught him. "You can walk. Slowly." The man winced. "They'll catch us." "Not if we reach the basin first," the cowboy said. "What's in the basin?" the woman asked. "Cover," the cowboy said. Brush, stones, waterholes, and danger, the wounded man added weakly. Yes, the cowboy agreed. Plenty. As they descended the rocky path, stones shifted under their feet. The woman slipped twice. Each time the cowboy steadied her. Wind gusted upward from the canyon floor, carrying the scent of sage and distant animals. Behind them, a rider spotted movement. There, down the trail! Gunfire erupted again. 2 shots, then 3. Crack, crack, crack. Rocks exploded around their feet. Faster, the cowboy yelled. We'll fall, she cried. Better a fall than a bullet. Threat. They scrambled down the slope, half running, half sliding. The wounded man stumbled and nearly toppled, but the cowboy shoved him upright. The woman pointed, breathless. Look, the basin! A wide stretch of brush and rock opened before them. Sparse mesquite trees dotted the ground. A shallow stream glimmered faintly through reeds. Go, the cowboy urged. They ran toward the nearest cluster of brush. When they reached it, the cowboy pulled them down to the dirt. Stay low, he said. What now? She whispered. We listen. Voices echoed above them. They went down. Cut them off. Find the girl. The woman's hands shook violently. They won't stop, she whispered. No, the cowboy said. Not until they get what they want. And what is that? You, the cowboy said. Or your silence. The wounded man coughed, pointing weakly across the basin. Look. A thin shape moved through the reeds. Someone crouched low, heading their direction, not running, not panicked, controlled. The cowboy narrowed his eyes. Someone's already here. The woman's voice trembled. Is it one of them? No, the cowboy said. He's too calm. How can you tell? He's moving like he knows the land. New uncertainty. The figure approached slowly. Boots brushing grass, a long coat, a wide hat, a rifle slung across his back, not drawn, not aimed. He stopped 30 paces away, raising one hand in a quiet gesture. The cowboy tensed. The stranger called out in a calm, gravelled voice. You're running from the same men I'm hunting, the woman whispered. Who is he? The cowboy didn't blink. A problem, he said. Or a solution. The stranger stepped forward. I know what was inside that wagon, he said, and I know who the land belongs to. The cowboy tightened his grip on his revolver. How do you know? He asked. The stranger removed his hat slowly, revealing tired eyes. Because, he said, I'm the one who signed the papers. The woman's breath caught in her throat. She stared at the stranger, unsure if she should run, hide, or cry. The cowboy rose slowly from the brush, every muscle coiled tight. You signed the papers, the cowboy asked quietly. The stranger nodded once. Every one of them. The wounded man groaned, his head lifting weakly. That's him, he whispered. The one they blamed. The woman blinked. Blamed? For what? The stranger lowered his voice. For knowing too much. Care. The cowboy kept one hand near his revolver. If you're telling the truth, you're in danger. I've been in danger a long time, the stranger said. The woman stepped closer. If you signed the papers, does that mean for the land really is mine? The stranger studied her face, his eyes softening. It means you're the rightful heir, he said. And they know it. Her knees buckled. The cowboy steadied her. They killed my family, she whispered. The stranger nodded slowly. They erased them on paper, then erased anyone who questioned it. The cowboy's jaw tightened. And the crate? He asked. The proof, the stranger said. Stamped, sealed, legal. Every signature, every map, every measurement. The wounded man coughed. They wanted the water, all of it. Yes, the stranger said. The spring runs deeper than anyone thought. The woman trembled. I don't want any land. I didn't ask for this. It doesn't matter, the cowboy said. They fear the truth, not your wants. Threat. The stranger scanned the ridge. They'll come soon, he said. All of them. The cowboy frowned. How many? 5 riders, the stranger replied. Plus the badge man. The woman swallowed hard. We can't fight 6. No, the stranger said, but we don't need to. The cowboy folded his arms. Then what? "We need to reach the spring," the stranger said. "Before they do." The woman looked frightened. "Why?" "Because," he said, "that spring holds the last thing they fear." "What's that?" she whispered. "A truth you can't bury," the stranger said. "Not with bullets, not with lies." New uncertainty. The cowboy checked the sun. It hung low, sinking toward the red horizon. "They'll reach the basin soon," he warned. "We go north," the stranger said, "through the narrow pass." "That pass is dangerous," the cowboy said. "It's worse for horses," the stranger replied. "They'll have to go around." "Micro-victory," the cowboy nodded. "All right," he said. "But we move fast." The wounded man tried to stand, legs shaking. The stranger bent and helped him up. "You walked this far," the stranger said softly. "You'll walk a little more." The man gritted his teeth and nodded. They moved toward the narrow pass, slipping through brush and staying low. The basin stretched wide behind them, turning orange in the dying light. The woman kept close to the cowboy, watching every shadow. "They'll follow us," she whispered. "Yeah," the cowboy said. "Will we make it?" "We'll try." "Try isn't enough," she said. "It's all we've got," he replied. Threat. As they neared the pass, the cowboy halted suddenly, raising a hand. "Stop!" The stranger stiffened. "What is it?" The cowboy pointed to the ground, hoofprints, fresh and deep. "They're ahead of us," he said. The woman gasped. "They cut us off." "Yes," the cowboy said. "Someone knew we'd choose the pass." The stranger muttered, "They're smarter than I hoped." The wounded man slumped against a rock. "What now?" The cowboy scanned the shadows. "We go around," he said. "Where?" the woman asked. "Through the wash," the cowboy said. "That wash is dry," the stranger replied. "No cover." "It has bends," the cowboy said. "And bends hide the hunted. Care, threat, new uncertainty." They entered the dry wash, its cracked clay floor stretching long and winding like a snake through the ridge. The walls rose on each side, tight enough to echo every footstep. The woman whispered, "They'll hear us." "They'll hear everything," the cowboy said. "Then how does this help?" "We don't need silence," he said. "We need shadows." They crept deeper. The wounded man stumbled. The cowboy caught him again. "You hold on," he said. The man nodded weakly. "I'm trying—" Suddenly the stranger raised a hand. "Stop, listen." They all froze. From up ahead, faint at first, came the sound of something dragging across stone. Slow, heavy, deliberate. The woman's eyes widened. "What is that?" The cowboy didn't answer. Another sound followed, metal hitting rock lightly, like a gun stock tapping a boulder. Then a voice drifted down the wash, calm and cold. "You keep running, but you can't outrun the truth." The woman clutched the cowboy's arm. "It's him," she whispered. "The badge man." "No," the cowboy said quietly. "His voice is coming from ahead." She froze. "How did he get in front of us?" "He didn't," the cowboy said. The stranger's face went pale. "That's not him." The woman stared. "Then who is it?" A tall silhouette stepped into view at the bend of the wash, blocking the path. The sun behind him made his outline burn red. He lifted a long-barreled rifle slowly. The cowboy whispered one word. "Boss." The woman's breath stopped. The stranger swallowed hard. "They sent the leader," he said. The silhouette raised the rifle to his shoulder. "You three," the voice said, "are done running." The boss stood tall in the bend of the wash, rifle leveled, one boot planted like he owned the earth beneath it. Dust curled at his feet. The sun behind him cast his face in shadow, turning him into a shape more than a man. The woman clung to the cowboy's sleeve. "We're trapped." "No," the cowboy whispered. "Not yet." The boss spoke again, voice steady as stone. "Drop your guns," the cowboy replied calmly. "We don't want trouble." "You're knee-deep in it already," the boss said. The wounded man groaned, leaning on the stranger for support. "We don't have your papers." "I know," the boss said, "but you know enough." Threat. The boss stepped closer, boots crunching on the cracked wash floor. "You three made a big mistake," he continued. "You crossed into business that ain't yours." The woman shouted back, shaking but brave. "It is mine. The land is mine." The boss paused, not surprised, not startled, just annoyed. "That land," he said, "feeds whole towns, feeds armies, makes kings." The cowboy stepped in front of her. "And you aim to be one." "I already am," the boss said. The stranger lifted his chin. "You forged half the papers." The boss smiled faintly. "I corrected them." The cowboy's eyes narrowed. "You killed the clerk." "He talked too much," the boss said. "Like you." New threat. The cowboy placed a steady hand behind him, making sure the woman stayed covered. "We don't have what you want," the cowboy said. "Oh, I know," the boss replied. "But she does." The woman flinched. "I don't have anything." "You've got blood," the boss said. "Blood that ties you to that spring," the stranger spoke sharply. "You murdered her kin." The boss shrugged. "They were obstacles, nothing more." The wash fell silent. Then the cowboy said, low and controlled, "You'll never get away with this." "I already did," the boss said, "until she crawled out of nowhere." The woman's voice cracked. "I didn't crawl. I survived." "Not for long," the boss said. He lifted his rifle higher. Care, threat, new uncertainty. The cowboy whispered fast. "When I move left, you pull the wounded man right." The stranger whispered back, "He'll shoot us." "He'll aim at me," the cowboy said. The woman grabbed his sleeve. "No, don't." "I need to draw him," the cowboy whispered. She shook her head. "It's suicide." "Only if I'm slow," the boss called out. "Stop whispering." The cowboy raised both hands slowly. "No more games. Let her walk." The boss scoffed. "That girl's worth more than all three of you." The cowboy stepped forward. "You want me, take me." The boss sighed, annoyed. "Heroics bore me." He cocked the rifle. The cowboy whispered, "Now." The stranger yanked the wounded man to the right. But the woman didn't move. She stepped forward instead. "Wait!" she shouted. "Stop!" The cowboy spun. "What are you doing?" The boss lowered his rifle slightly, curious. The woman said, voice trembling but loud, "You want the truth? I know it." The cowboy hissed, "Don't do this." She shook her head. "He'll kill us if I don't speak." The boss smirked. "Go on." She swallowed hard. "The spring wasn't found," she said. "It was dug." The cowboy froze. The stranger froze. Even the boss stiffened. The woman continued, each word shaking. "I heard them say, someone made that spring. Someone forced the water up." The boss's eyes narrowed. "Where'd you hear that?" She pointed at the badgeman on the ridge. "He said it. He said you used dynamite. You weren't discovering water. You were stealing it." The cowboy stared at her, stunned. The boss's expression darkened slowly, like clouds gathering over a dry plain. "You shouldn't know that," he said. The stranger whispered, "Girl, what have you done?" She shook her head. "Told the truth." The boss's voice went dangerously soft. "You just signed every death warrant in this wash." He raised the rifle to fire, but another gunshot rang out. Crack! A bullet tore into the ground between the boss's boots. The boss froze. Silence stretched. Dust settled. The cowboy whispered, "Who fired?" From behind them, back at the mouth of the wash, heavy footsteps echoed. Slow, deliberate. A familiar voice growled, "Put that rifle down." It was the badgeman. He staggered into view, bruised, furious, rifle raised. The cowboy stared in disbelief. The woman gasped. "He followed us." The boss didn't move. The badgeman's voice cracked with rage. "You think you'll kill them before I do?" He stepped forward, eyes burning. "They know my secrets too." The boss aimed at him. The badgeman aimed back. 2 rifles, 2 killers, 1 narrow wash. The woman whispered, "They'll kill everyone." The cowboy whispered back, "No, they'll kill each other first." The boss snarled, "This ends now." The badgeman hissed, "Yes, it does." Both rifles cocked at once. Both fingers tightened. Both men fired. Boom! Boom! The wash erupted in thunder. Dust exploded in every direction. The woman screamed. The cowboy covered her. The wounded man collapsed. The stranger ducked. And when the dust settled, only one man was still standing. The dust slowly thinned, drifting through the wash like smoke after a brush fire. The woman coughed, eyes watering, clutching the cowboy's coat. The cowboy lifted his head first, scanning the chaos. Only one figure was upright. The boss. He stood swaying, rifle lowered, breathing hard. The badge man lay face down in the dirt, unmoving, his rifle kicked several feet away. Blood seeped from his vest, a dark pool spreading across the cracked ground. The woman whispered, He shot him." The cowboy rose slowly. "No, they shot each other." But the boss stood longer. The stranger helped the wounded man sit, though his hands trembled with fear. The boss stepped forward, voice hoarse. "This is the end, for all of you." The cowboy moved to block the woman. "It's over," he said. "You're bleeding." The boss looked down, surprised to see crimson dripping from his side. He pressed his hand against it, furious at the weakness. "It doesn't matter," he growled. "I can finish this." He raised his rifle, but the woman stepped out from behind the cowboy. "No," she said. The cowboy reached for her, but she shook him off. Her voice was steady now, stronger than fear. "You can't hide it anymore," she told the boss. "Everyone knows the truth. You stole the water, you killed for it, and now everyone here saw it." The boss's jaw clenched. "Truth doesn't matter. Power does." The stranger stepped forward, weak but standing. "You lost both." The cowboy spoke softly. "You don't have to die here." The boss hesitated, not because of mercy but calculation. But the wounded man, barely conscious, lifted his head and whispered one sentence the boss wasn't prepared to hear. "The papers were never in the wagon." The boss froze. The cowboy's eyes widened. The woman blinked in confusion. "Then, where?" The wounded man lifted a shaking hand, pointing weakly toward the cowboy. "On him." The cowboy stiffened. "I don't have anything." "You do," the wounded man rasped. "Inside your vest, sewn in." The clerk hid them before they caught him. The cowboy reached under his coat into the inner lining where his fingers brushed something stiff, folded, thin, hidden long ago. He slowly pulled out a packet of sealed documents, maps, signatures, land claims, all real. The woman gasped. "You've had them the whole time." "I didn't know," the cowboy said quietly. The boss let out a broken, furious sound, half growl, half disbelief. "Child, you weren't supposed to have that." He raised his rifle, but his strength finally failed him. His legs buckled. The gun fell from his hand as he collapsed to his knees. The stranger stepped forward. "It's done." The boss glared up at them with fading rage. "No, it'll never be done." His head dropped, his breath stopped, and the wash fell quiet. The woman stared at the documents in the cowboy's hands, her family's stolen legacy. "Is it real?" she whispered. The cowboy nodded. "Yes, it's yours." She swallowed hard, tears forming but not falling. "What do I do now?" she asked softly. The cowboy holstered his revolver. "You protect the land," he said, "the way your family tried to—" The stranger stepped closer. "And you rebuild what they took." The wounded man, barely conscious, whispered, "Make it right." The woman looked at the three men, at the wash, at the bodies behind them, at the papers that carried the weight of her past and her future. Then she nodded, small, shaky, but true. "I will." The cowboy gave a faint, tired smile. "Good," he said, "because the land finally has someone worth fighting for." They helped the wounded man to his feet. The stranger gathered the fallen rifles. And together, they walked out of the blood-covered wash and toward the rising light beyond the ridge, toward the spring, toward the truth, and toward the life her family had died to protect. If this story gripped you from the first dust cloud to the final gunshot, then hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another frontier tale like this one. Every week, we bring you new Western stories filled with danger, justice, mystery, and heart, crafted to pull you straight into the saddle. Share this video with someone who loves high-stakes drama and powerful endings. And if you want more stories about hidden truths, lost legacies, and the brave souls who fight to reclaim what's theirs, drop a comment below. Your support keeps these stories alive. Saddle up. New adventures ride in soon.